Hello and welcome to This Week at the Movies. I'm Matt,
And I'm Eric.
and we are at the beginning of December, which means a big run for awards season. A lot of films actually coming out in December. I feel like we had kind of a little quieter October. Started picking up steam here at the end of November and December. There's just a whole bunch of things. Not all things arrive in all places at the same time. But Eric and I are looking forward to covering some of the big releases. So this week, we actually have three movies that we're going to touch on. A couple of them you can see in theaters. One of them you can grab on Netflix. I think all three of them could potentially be factors in end of year awards. But we will talk about that as we go through. We're going to kick it off with the one that I ended with last week. I mentioned how much I enjoyed Disney's Wish, which opened up just in time for Thanksgiving. A real celebration of 100 years of Disney animation. A lot of Easter eggs in there. Ariana DeBois and Chris Pine, some of the lead vocals. I really enjoyed the music. I gave it a solid thumbs up last week. Eric was very interested in it the last 2 weeks. He actually got a chance to see it, and I'm hoping we're on the same page.
Yeah, we are. I gave it one thumb up, but it's I wanted to give it two thumbs up and am disappointed that I can't. There's something about the idea behind this movie that
I'm
is
kind
so
of the same
exciting.
as you. In your heart, like I had so much fun with it, but I feel good. One thumb up.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I want this to be all 2D. I want to see the version of this movie that is just 2D. I like the way that they landed in between. I just one or the other, but my preference would be the 2D elements really stuck out to me. But Wish in general, the idea of this is like the source core story of 100 years of magic and how like good and evil kind of originated. It's such an exciting, cool concept, and yet it's like kind of I talked about this in a TikTok, but I it has this pacing issue that a lot of Disney animated features have, where things move like a million miles an hour. Characters go through arcs like that. And I really like the character Dahlia because she kind of to me felt the most grounded and like realistic. That's the friend that works for the king. But yeah, long story short, the way that everybody turns on this land that they were born into or traveled to escape from the rest of the world, the speed of that, especially the queen walking in mid song and suddenly saying I'm with you and singing the song with them. It was like, whoa, okay. Like there's just a lot of few things.
They had been kind of building to her doing
they
that.
had been, yes. And honestly, if she had just walked in and they had kept singing and she wasn't singing with them, I wouldn't feel weird about it. It was something about her like already being in the song when she walks in. It was just a little like, oh, like I don't know. There was I genuinely
really
felt
liked the music though.
I liked the themes,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't pick out like one song.
The main song about making her wish,
Yeah,
that you have refrained a couple of times, including in the climax. I thought was their best one. I would guess that will probably be the one that goes to Oscars because it hasn't been an impeccable year for original music. For me, I was starting to think about like, oh, I wonder what original songs usually you have one or two that have at least hammered home to you. I guess I'll have to see what even qualifies, what might be the list. There's one over the closing credits of the Hunger Games that I actually really liked.
Yeah.
But usually you have one or two that are in big summer movies, and I'm sure a couple of the ones from Barbie will go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially the Ken song. But
Yeah.
I liked the music in Wish.
Yeah. Yep. It was enjoyable. The whole thing was like, by the end, I was so invested in the core idea that I got really emotional when she got everybody to start singing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was
Well,
cool.
and that's the criticisms I've seen from people that criticize felt like it was just too much pandering to the fact that it's Disney 100. And there is a lot in there that celebrates Disney 100. You begin with, um, that little short with Walt Disney talking about the foundation of Walt Disney Animation, and obviously over the end credits, you see tributes to all of their big animated films throughout the year. But this is a film that can stand on its own. I liked the characters. I liked the idea of, is it better to have these wild dreams, even if you're never going to be able to achieve them because they keep you going and they keep you being who you are, or to surrender those dreams for contentment, essentially, or for a life without struggle. And that was
That's so a life without struggle is probably the clearest definition, but that right there, that blank part is where I think it could have gone from a one thumb up to a two thumb up if that was clearer. Yeah.
I still love the goat. Who knew my voice would be this low? That was I thought that was a lot of fun. Well, from one that is perfect for the family to one that will probably have your family asking a lot of questions, and that would be the big release from Netflix this week. They had a holiday release on Thursday, but their big release was May December, which is one of the films that they're definitely going to be pushing for award season. Netflix has had a really robust push this award season. In November, they released a lot of different things. We got Naiad that came out that I'm sure that they have hopes for. The Killer and Rustin. December, we have two more. We have another one from Sam Esmail next week, and then Maestro, which is probably going to be one of their biggest releases that comes a little bit closer to Christmas. But May, December, from Todd Haynes, a director who has made some interesting, sometimes controversial films. This one is loosely based on the concept of the Mary Kay Letourneau story. And if you're thinking that's not exactly the kind of thing that I want to dive into, well, yeah, I understand. This basically jumps ahead to look at a woman who was 36 who had an affair with a 13-year-old boy. That resulted in the implosion of her life and her marriage and her family, jumps ahead 24 years later, where the woman and the young boy who had the affair are now married and their own kids are their youngest children are about to graduate from high school. Julianne Moore plays that character, Charles Melton, and plays her husband, her much younger husband. Natalie Portman is an actress who comes to kind of study the family or learn something about the family because they're making a movie about when the affair actually happened. And to me, there was so many opportunities with this kind of a story to explore a whole bunch of different things. This movie touches on a whole bunch of different topics, but it feels like almost always at a surface level. I enjoyed Natalie Portman's performance. She's very different than what you think at the beginning, a very manipulative character, a very mercurial character. I really enjoyed some of Melton's performance, and I would have actually liked to dive into a little bit of the pathology of a character like that they touch on the outer edges of what that would have done to him as now a 37-year-old adult whose kids are all out of the house, who's married to a super unstable woman that's 20 plus years older than him. They could have explored what it did to those kids who, certainly were the product of some intense scrutiny. In this fictional reality, the couple never actually leaves the small Georgia town where this all took place. They could have explored the impact that it had on her other 4 adult children. Sometimes you get small pieces of that with one of her kids in particular. My problem with this as a film, and the reason I'm going to give it thumbs neutral, is because it introduces a lot of ideas and doesn't, to me, make a comment on any of them sufficiently.
Yeah. Um May December feels like a filmmaker got interested in a story, a real life story, and it was a very touchy subject that they didn't know how to approach. So they made a movie about someone involved in film who gets interested in a story that's about a very touchy subject and they're not sure how to approach it. They they made the story kind of about themselves, and that is kind of, to me, a barrier. It's like I'm supposed to be. The weird thing is that the lens we're viewing this through is Natalie Portman. It's Charles Melton, and in reaction to him, Julianne Moore, that hit me really hard. I thought Charles Melton took an extremely difficult, like, position to play to try and give some kind of representation to someone who's been in this unique position and in an extreme setting. And the way that he plays cracking open this metaphor with the insects that he's trying to save, um I do feel like there's enough there for me of his story for me to give this one thumb up. That it's sort of like his character, as he's been in a relationship and his children have been in school, has been in his own sort of cocoon, and he's questioning now what is his life going to be now that he's not so absorbed with the raising his children and Julianne Morris, his wife, aspect of his life. And it's like this idea that he has is now free and has so much joy for his children. I think he plays so many of the emotions in a way that feels truthful, but I can't possibly know, because even though there was a real story to explore, they didn't totally base this on it. Like, it's just
And I get, you know, not needing a biopic, but let me ask you, there's a couple of things. There are some incredible shots in this. There are some incredible craft, incredible cinematography. Then there's the score, which to me, a lot of times, if I notice your score, either it's breathtakingly beautiful or it's incredibly out of place. And this, a number of times, I really felt myself noticing the score, thinking that it felt like the score for some kind of a horror movie, while the movie I was watching didn't necessarily convey that, and other times felt a little too campy. I couldn't help but think afterward, I might have almost been interested if they would have tackled this story and stripped Natalie Portman's character and that whole storyline out of it. If we were just seeing,
the family at that
exciting incident here, because you almost don't get enough because of all the pieces they're interjecting, like Julianne Moore's son from her previous marriage, Corey Michael Smith, who is a singer and is unbalanced and also seems to be her buddy in weird malicious mischief. When you get to the end, like, is that supposed to be like a weird twist? Or
I can't tell. I feel like Julianne Moore is playing a character that has had to settle a lot of cognitive dissonance. She's had to make decisions that she believes things in order to live with herself and decisions that she's made. And you see that the way that she stonewalls Joe's character when he tries to start questioning things, the way that she shuts things down. And it's that last ominous speech to Natalie Portman where you get the impression that she knows what happened, and she's just like, no, my life is exactly the way I want it to be and is going to stay exactly the way I want it to be, because that's how I survived and that's how I did what I wanted to do. And that line where she's so calm and that she is manipulative, but like the manipulation is sort of over and we're living in the world she's built for herself. It's that, to me, was the music. That creeping sense of something here is wrong constantly. So to me, that it worked. I've seen plenty of people complaining, like, and you couldn't not notice it. I sometimes was distracted from what I was actually watching by the music happening, and you don't want that. But every time you started with that like sort of beat rhythm sound, I just sort of like it's triggered me to start thinking like what am I supposed to be afraid of right now, and start looking for things and start to evaluate why characters are doing what they're doing. And that's how I came to sort of think of Natalie Portman's character and her motives, and started to pick up on that she's not exactly an innocent bystander in this. And I don't know. It's the
Uh,
movie's twisted.
she was borderline evil.
Yeah.
I go back and forth about what your ultimate takeaway is supposed to be for Julianne Moore's character. I will say, she's a fantastic actress, and we've seen her do just some really great roles, and she's done some really great work in other Todd Haynes films. Was it Far From Heaven? I think was one of his, where she and Dennis Quaid and Dennis Haysbert are in there. I think of that one from the early 2000s, but I didn't really resonate with this character or this performance much. And so that was a little bit harder. It's probably because I resonated more with Melton and the potential exploration of that character. And I just don't feel like we got enough or a super complete arc there. And I would have been interested in, what are the ramifications for the children, or, briefly you get a pop-up with her first ex-husband. What were the ripples in his life? You start to touch on some of that, and then it just almost is quickly over. And I almost think they picked, they brought in the Natalie Portman actress character so that they could at least touch on all these other things, because they couldn't figure out how to organically, could we not just get a 2-hour slice of life with
Yeah.
with this couple?
It was a good sort of framing device for asking uncomfortable questions, an actress trying to prepare for that mindset, but then they didn't use it to answer those questions.
Yeah, so this is why I thought it had a lot of potential, and it has some really good pieces. Melton, I think, won Best Supporting Actor at the Gotham Awards last week. I think he'll definitely be in play here. I could see Natalie Portman, because there are a couple of like really kind of vindictive moves her character plays that she pulls off pretty well, and that closing scene is intensely creepy, like intensely creepy.
Yeah.
And that's because she's doing a fantastic job, not just because of, the subject, the what's happening is creepy, but she's very good in that part. So I could see it competing. I just wasn't as taken with it as an overall film project. Which leads us to our last one, Dream Scenario, an A24, a very interesting concept film. It is playing in theaters now. It opened limited release kind of at the tail end of Thanksgiving. I think it went a little wider this week. Features Nicolas Cage in a very interesting performance as a sort of middle of the road professor who's remarkable for being completely unremarkable. He starts popping up in everyone's dreams, at first as something of a strange bystander during traumatic dream events. And then later, those dreams take on a new life of their own. At first, it makes him a celebrity, and then quickly public sentiment turns and he becomes a pariah and sees his life blown up. I thought that was all fascinating. I really kind of enjoyed Nicolas Cage in this. And then we got to a third act, and for me, it jumped right off the rails. And I was not really taken with the third act, especially an introduction of a technological piece and some cameos that I didn't really understand how it fit with the first part of the story they were telling. And then you kind of just peter out a little bit for me at the end. This is another one, I'm tempted to go down, but I'm just going to give it neutral. I liked Cage here. I liked the idea at first, but I thought it just fizzled for me.
So I'm giving this one a pretty hard thumbs up, actually. So I'm curious about, there might be a little back and forth here on this one, because I do think I sort of had to piece together. This is the common theme of the day: is very exciting concept, very questionable execution, and like, but this is the strongest I felt of the three. This is the most competent execution of an idea. But the trick is that I couldn't totally piece together what the idea was until very late in the movie. So where you were turned off to the concept, I think I started to decide that I understood the concept around that point in the movie as being current day's pursuit of fame and attention, and living in like a not quite this
Yeah, and
pseudo
I think they were
celebrity
going,
status.
and I think they were making a commentary on cancel culture too.
I think that's a part of it. It's the way that famous has a different flavor to it, and it's dealing with a new kind of celebrity and the way that we do and we don't understand people. The moment that got me was when he gives his appeal, he puts his reaction online to having a dream of his own that is traumatic, and his wife standing in the hallway saying that it was embarrassing. His sincere attempt to reach out and empathize and address, and the sincerity in communicating as much as this character can be, when he's not being totally natural Nicolas Cage. He's playing a little bit quirky Nicolas Cage, but I thought it was really right for the role. But just the way that he was like begging for a human like empathy and understanding, and just it felt so correct that she was just like, this is would just make people really upset, and this is it seems like that's the way things sort of work. The only issue I really have with the movie is they pose this, and I don't know what this is supposed to suggest, in a way that he's completely innocent. Like, if we understood a little bit more about how this supernatural element is coming into the world of being able to access people's dreams, and we found out that Nicolas Cage had some agency in being in people's dreams, I think we'd have a
But
little more to work with.
that's almost what they imply in the end without ever then
Kind of.
explaining that. And the whole
And
then moving into the dream warriors that, or dream team that can go in there and put ads in,
yeah.
and it was just then too weird for me a little
Yeah.
bit at the end. I liked the absolute closing sequence where he was then trying to use this, but I could have done without some of the wandering roads there, the interlude with the young secretary at the advertising agency, which I just thought was uncomfortable and weird.
Well,
And
I
then
th- I think
ultimately didn't feel like it went anywhere or served any purpose.
I don't know why this is the person I think about, but do you know Chris Crocker, the Leave Britney Alone person?
Mm-mm.
This is not from early internet, but this is from like mid late 2000s, the beginnings of meme culture internet. It's where Star Wars kid with the broom, like kind of was it like these people who were on Daniel Tosh's Tosh.0 or whatever. Like these are all 10-year-old or more references at this point.
I'm going to
But
break your heart, but I've actually never seen that show.
that's fine. That doesn't break my heart at all. I've barely watched it. But it's the concept of it was that these people who gained an internet fame, where are they now? There's another meme that gingers do have souls, like South Park parodied this person, and that kid went to school right near where I live. And it's this idea that the way the world would react to this bizarre, unique thing that happens to an individual is find a way to commercialize it. And the idea of living in Nicolas Cage's perspective and having to watch from the eyes of someone like a Chris Crocker or somebody like that, the way that the world commodifies you for something personal that happened to you that you can't control anymore. Like
And then
that,
demonizes you almost.
yes. Like it's like you're not a real
And I
person.
didn't have a problem with that part. That actually was somewhat fascinating to me, but just when you're getting to like there's the interlude with the advertising girl that I mentioned didn't totally work for me. And then just when you're kind of getting to that, then it flips to this commercial for a product, presumably in the future.
Sure.
And you had some kind of high profile actors in that segment.
Oh, did they? I see. I didn't recognize anybody.
Oh, yes, including like the lead Amber Midthunder, who has done a bunch of things, including being the lead in Prey last year. You know,
Okay,
the Alien prequel, and so then I'm like, okay, well, they have some bigger people. If it was meant to be a throwaway scene, why did we invest that much? And also, it came at a weird point in time for it. It disrupted the flow enough for me that then I was taken out of where
like
I
the
thought
whole
it was going.
concept thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, it is
it was a
very
180
abrupt.
from where I thought I was going.
Yeah, it's a really abrupt change in direction, but it just worked for me. The idea that it was taken all of a sudden so far away and removed from him that he's not even a part of the conversation anymore. Like I just bought into, like, I don't know. And then
And I guess
like you said,
for
the
his
way we
behalf,
come
I was
back.
hoping for some kind of a redemptive arc, which you also don't get.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
I think people don't
like
get that.
typically, like, even for his own family. Like I get not being a redemptive arc for society, but
That
you know,
is bitter. Yes,
and
I
you
agree with
kind
that.
of jump ahead, and I guess you're left to assume that they got divorced and that he's
Right.
looking for his own house. But his relationship with his kids almost seems a little too quasi normal
Yeah,
for
that
where they
was
were.
weird to me.
And then you get to this closing sequence that I actually would have liked to ditch the commercial part and seen, can he make that a go? Did he go through all of this not seeking fame but then getting fame and then trying to hold on to the fame and losing everything only to realize that he was actually happy with the life and family he had before? But that's not really where we ended up, or we
you're
didn't
pretty
end up in
far.
a sufficient way, and you had this weird tack on idea at the end, and that's for me what drops it down.
Yeah.
I probably would have been kind of tracking the same as you. It's not the concept necessarily that bothered me, it was the end of
How
the film's
hard.
execution of this story. And I'm not saying I need resolution for everything. I don't. Some of my favorite movies
No, but you have a
completely
point.
lack a
Yeah.
drives my wife crazy. I'll be like, that was so beautiful, and she's like, nothing happened. They didn't solve their problem. Like, not all life's problems get
The
solved.
movie's not over.
I'm not 100% that needs to happen, but this felt like it almost felt like it left mid-sentence.
Yeah. Yeah, it worked for me. I'm saying it still worked for me, but
And it
I
worked
agree.
for a lot of people. There are quite a few people that were really smitten with this, and I think that could end up being an interesting factor toward the end of award season. Nicolas Cage does a nice job.
Awards. I don't. I really, with
You
what's
never
come
know.
out this year, I just don't see this becoming. I can see like a cult following, like not necessarily just the Nicolas Cage following, but a cult following of this movie of people who really get behind the concept. But like while the movie's here, it feels bigger, but I see it kind of fading into the background with so much coming out in the next month. I think a bunch of studios might have accidentally stepped their feet on top of each other and didn't realize it till they put their foot down. And I'm really curious to see what's going to come out of the end of this month with so much stacked on top of itself.
Well, and that's what I was saying. A lot of these studios are pumping multiple options all at the end. So this is A24. A24 also gave us Priscilla. They have the Iron Claw, which comes out in December. I feel like there's one other one I'm forgetting. MGM, which is now part of Amazon, had Saltburn, but they also have American Fiction and The Boys in the Boat. Neon, which is one of the stronger independent labels. They have Anatomy of a Fall, which is one of the international competition films. They have an interesting film, Eileen, that's coming out here. Ferrari is still coming for them. Origin, Ava DuVernay.
So it's like, is all of their stuff still coming?
Yeah, well, yeah. Those last three are all, and they have an international film contender. So that's, Warner Brothers still has Wonka Color Purple that they're putting out in this last quarter, and they're pushing Barbie as well. So you're right. A lot of these, I mentioned Netflix, they had 3 pretty big releases that they're all trying to push, and I can tell because I get the free consideration boxes in November, and then December they have December. I think it's like Leave the World Behind that has Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke, Mahershala Ali in a Sam Esmail film, and then they have Maestro on the 20th. Yep. We still have just this confluence of a lot, and usually when you get to like that Christmas weekend range, you get a few bigger commercial films and then maybe 1 or 2 awards contenders. But the actual 3 that are wide release on Christmas Day, Boys in the Boat, which was directed by George Clooney and it is a big push for MGM. The Color Purple, which is a big musical adaptation of the classic Alice Walker book, and Ferrari with Adam Driver from Michael Mann. Those all have commercial appeal, but they're not Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which comes out the Friday before. That's the Aquaman. Just my wife asked me if I got a screener for Aquaman. I was like, that's not the film Warner Brothers is going to push for your consideration season.
No, that's the film they're putting out because they have to. Like,
I rewatched the first one this morning. My God.
And you loved it. You changed your mind. You were like, what a spectacle.
Sure. Okay. Well, that'll do it for this week. Do you have any other thoughts about these 3 movies or the onslaught we're about to experience?
Well, I'm here for the high concept movies. So I just, as long as people take a little more time to like write them and really think about how to execute the concept,
I can't wait for you to see American Fiction.
I'm really excited about that one. When is that more widely accessible?
I think at the end of December is when it's going wider, but if you see it in limited, I've already been there, done that.
Okay.
So it's an exciting season. We are still, because there are so many things releasing different things in different parts of the country. Eric is not too far from the metropolis of Atlanta, and it's screener mountain season for me. So I wait to see what presents I get in my mail or electronic mail. So we don't know 100% what we're going to do next week, but probably Boy and the Heron. Which should be a wide release next week, and then we'll see what other things come out. It's going to be a wonderful time if you really enjoy film. This is going to be a big and diverse month that has a lot of different offerings. Looking forward to diving in and checking them out. And hey, we even get a new Zack Snyder film this month.
Oh yeah,
Netflix other big release. 2 days after Maestro, we get Rebel Moon Part 1. And you know what? I have to be honest. I'm almost more excited for Rebel Moon.
Oh no, I'm way more excited to see what Bradley Cooper does. But
yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, something about the idea that this is Zack Snyder's take on Star Wars. Like he's low-key admitted that it's like the leftovers of when he was on board to do a Star Wars project are absorbed into this. Like, what is that gonna do? Like, that's gonna be polarized immediately online.
Next, Netflix is nothing if not good at building the hype machine, because I don't know if you have looked at your Netflix subscription recently, but as of December 1st, all of the Snyderverse films are now available to stream on Netflix.
What?
Yes, they're there, which means Max must have given them up for.
Yeah, how? Like, okay.
I know. The only one it looks like they held was Aquaman.
Oh no.
Probably because the sequel's coming out. But yeah, Batman versus Superman, Man of Steel, Justice League. I saw them all pop up in my new on Netflix feed.
Wow. Yeah,
So
recently
they're leaning all in. They're leaning all in. Well, that'll do it for us today. You guys have a wonderful week. May the odds be ever in your favor as you try to navigate the crowded cinemas and the even more crowded shopping landscape. When you need a break from seeing 700 cars in 300 spots at your local Target, just
watch 700 movies.
Walk over. Yeah, watch 700 movies. Until next week, we will see you at the movies.